So I'm holding this upside down in the third hand. The claws fit tightly enough that they shouldn't come out. If you're worried, you can turn it sideways. And what I'm going to do is put a pallion of hard solder at each spot. Place them with the flux brush. And we want this to touch both the base and the claw. So do all four of them. We're using a neutral flame on our mini torch. Slowly heat this to dry out your flux, and then you can push the solder where it needs to go, right up against the claw, using your solder pick. So get all four of them set up. You can see the solder is right against the claw, and then do them one at a time. Just focus on the one, circle the claw. The flux will go clear, the solder will flow. At that point, shift to the next one. Yeah. If you have one that the solder doesn't flow around the claw, place another little piece of solder. Don't just keep heating it, it'll probably start to melt. So just place another little piece of solder on there. Then quench it, pickle it. When you've quenched it, turn it over, look at the other side. You should see a nice solder all the way around your claw. And you should see the meniscus, which is a smooth curve between the two pieces of metal. So pickle this. So take your piece out of the pickle, dry it, file, and sand this back. And the reason we always do the same thing, solder, quench, pickle, dry, file, is the flux is actually harder than the file. So if you don't pickle this, or at least run it under hot water and get the flux off, you'll dull your file. So tidy this up now. I just braced the claw against my bench peg, but be careful that you don't push too hard because you don't want to push the claw over. So get these fairly close, and then I would wait until I cut the piece out before I sanded the back and finished it up. Now, we're going to saw just to the outside of our mark, and when we get to the claw, leave a millimeter all the way around. So don't saw right up to the claw. Leave about a mil. We want panda ears. And this is a large stone, so I'm going to make it into a pendant, and I need to leave a spot on the top where I can put a pinch bail. You could solder a bail on, but we're going to use an articulated bail because the stone always looks better to me if it can move. If this were a small setting, you could turn it into a ring if you wanted. But like I say, this one is large, so at least a 3 millimeter circle on top so that I can drill it where the pinch bail goes. Now we have our original mark where we put our our dividers. So just come up 2 mil from that and drill a 1.2 hole, and then we'll just saw around that. A little bit of lube on your saw blade. Run the saw up because you don't want to fill this with wax. So that's the idea. Now use your file and sanding stick to tidy up the edges and the back. You shouldn't have to do anything to the front because you haven't really touched it. And if you did a good solder job, you'll just have a nice smooth solder joint that you don't have to do anything with. So once you've done your filing on the edge, you can use a split mandrel to tidy it up. Don't be tempted to use the split mandrel on flat surfaces because it just doesn't work. Use your sanding stick and it'll give you a nice flat surface. So this is what the back should look like when you're done. No file marks, only sanding marks, and then we can polish that out. And now we're going to ball up the ends of our claws. So your same neutral flame that you always use, put the blue part of the cone right on the tip of the metal and watch that you don't overheat any of the other ones. And you're just going to melt that into a ball. Now, saying that, put a little bit of flux on the ends before we start, and it'll make it a little bit nicer metal. It'll make it a little bit smoother. So the blue cone right on the end, and you want it pointed across because we don't want to melt our solder. So just a nice ball like that. So do all four. Don't go too far or the ball will drop off. So just down about to your original mark when you had your side cutters on it. So quench it and pickle it. Okay, we're almost there. We're going to drill a hole, pierce out a design of your choice to expose the back of the stone. It can be simple. You could just do the hole inside, but leave 2 millimeters all the way around where the claws are. But it can be any design, and you'll get to use your jeweler's files to tidy this up. So just undo one end of your saw, thread the blade through, clamp it, and you're ready to saw from the inside. take out your blade, tidy up the edges with your jeweler's file. Make sure the back is nice and flat just by putting it on a piece of sandpaper on the bench. The bench is flat and you can just, yeah, because I noticed I had a couple of file marks left in mine. So make sure it's nice and flat. If it's precious metal, hallmark it now. And then we'll bang this in the tumbler to harden up our claws, because they'll be annealed at this moment. So we want them harder. Now, when you get this out of the tumbler, make a bail for this. It can be a pinch bail, it can be a riveted bail, it can be a soldered bail, but we want it to be an articulated bail. So here's our setting, ready to go. Ready for the pinch bail and ready to set the stone. If it were me, I would set the stone first. That way you can put this flat on your peg without the bail getting in the way. Now, take a tissue or something nice and clean, put on your bench peg, and just so you don't scratch the back. Put your stone in, and I'm using a bezel rocker to push the claws over. You can see it very, very quick, very straightforward. Ta-da! They're very obvious. They're actually a feature rather than just a claw. And if you need them to be a little bit tighter, you can just squeeze them with your parallel jaw pliers. Done.